Well, it's so nice to meet you, Alexa.
Thank you.
And we have the privilege of talking about mentorship. And one of my first thoughts when I think about that is not a one-way street. Whoever is being mentored and whoever is doing the mentoring, you both learn a lot. And so I just wanted to ask you, if you could hand pick a mentor, what are some of the qualities that you would look for?
There's a lot of them, actually. I feel like some of the qualities that I would hope a mentor would have would be patience, first of all, especially at the stage of life that I'm in as a mom with 2 young kids. There's a lot happening, and so for someone to enter into a relationship like that with me, I would need them to be very patient with me. I would want them to kind of lead by example, whether it's a leading of maybe something that they wish they would have done differently, or maybe something that it went absolutely right, and they could kind of share their wisdom along with me with that. Somebody who is safe, who I can trust to be vulnerable with.
That's excellent.
I would definitely want the relationship to have some freedom to be able to share, the hard stuff, and know that it's not going to come up in the next coffee session with somebody else,
Right.
So that would be important both ways, and that the mentor would know that I would also hold their confidence as well. I would want them to be able to help me focus. There's so many hats, I feel like, that I'm wearing these days, between being a mom and a wife, a friend, a daughter, sister, all of those things, to be able to focus in on the big picture, specifically following Jesus. When you've got 4 hours of sleep, sometimes you forget, and things look a little skewed in the world, and so to help me focus in on the important things, the seasons of life that we're in. This isn't going to last forever, these long nights of no sleep, that kind of thing. But also what to look forward to. If they've walked this path, there's more to come than just the season that seems like Groundhog Day every day. I would want that. I would want them to tell me the truth. Be very truthful. If I am doing something that maybe could be done differently, whether it's better or if I'm doing something correct, or believing something about myself, or maybe my kids, or my husband, or even the Lord, just be straight with me on it.
That's excellent.
And I will try to do my best not to cry. But yeah, just really be honest, because it's hard to know sometimes, what the fuller picture is, I guess. I feel very singular-minded these days, and so having a mentor be able to come alongside and say, here's the truth in the situation, let me speak it over you, would be really good.
That's good.
So I think
You've covered it beautifully.
I think that's about it.
That is great. Have you ever thought about how you would approach the person? How you would ask them to come into that role with you?
A little bit. I feel like if I ever felt kind of a connection with someone in that way, I think it would be something like, hey, can I have a few minutes of your time? I have a question for you. I'd like to be able to speak into what I've seen in their life. Say something like, I really loved how you treated this other lady at church the other day that I saw. So much compassion, empathy. I really feel like that's missing in my life, or those types of things. You have walked this road, and I would be wondering if you would have the time and the availability, willingness to maybe come along beside me in my walk and help me do this as best as I can.
That's excellent. I think anybody would be very honored to be asked, especially in the way you've put that. Well, if there was one thing that you could tell your younger self, what would that be? Just one. Just one.
There's so many. If there was one thing, probably. It has to be two. Can it be two?
You can be
okay.
two.
Okay. Be intentional. And be patient. Like enjoy the season that you're in, because they change so fast.
That's right.
So yeah, but be intentional in that season, because then when it's gone, I don't want regrets.
That's great. Well, here's another question. Can you say that you have ever experienced a miracle in your life?
Yes, I can.
You want to share anything about that?
Sure. When I was 16 years old, I had the opportunity to go on a mission trip with Focus on the Family. They had a magazine back in the day, a girls' magazine called Brio, and I subscribed to it. I loved it. It was a wonderful devotional. But they had a mission trip to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and we broke into teams. It was all girls, and we got costumes and we acted out the story of salvation. It was a beautiful, like, toy maker, and we were dolls, and it was set to music in Portuguese, and it was an incredible experience. Well, one of the places that we went to was the city dump. People lived there, and it was the most amazing transformation for the girl, like for us girls, walking in and seeing these homes and seeing these people and what was normal for them. But we weren't prepared for someone to come up to us who was not quite right in her mind. There's different variations of what might have been happening with her. A lot of people believe a lot of different things, but all I will say is that she was scary. There was no peace in her. And we had finished our presentation, and she was quiet. And the people around, our translator was talking to the people around, asking them. There were a couple kids who had a lot of questions about this Jesus character, and we would play soccer with them afterwards and stuff. We brought them balls and a few things. Anyway, she was quiet, so the translator was telling us that her family was very surprised that what's going on. She's never quiet. She's always talking. Anyway, so the translator asked if we could pray for her and lay hands on her. And we saw a completely different girl after that. I've never seen anything like it since. It was kind of such a time and a place, I think. As it were, God had something to do in that dump that day.
Absolutely.
And we were there. So I know firsthand that God works, especially when you're not even expecting it. We didn't go in there to do that. We went in to play with the kids and tell them about a God that loves them. But they all left very changed because that little girl had peace in her eyes when we left. So I know it's a big God.
Story.
I know he's a very big God who can do anything. And thank you for making me think of that. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
I'm glad you
and
shared that.
It puts perspective on the spit up and the the other things. Like, our God is so big. And when he shares those things, like when we are able to witness them, it is life-changing. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, was there a difficult time in your life that you can look back and you say, that was a person or an event that helped me through that difficult time?
Yes, actually. In between Evan and Joel, I had a miscarriage of twins. We were super excited, ready to have another baby. We didn't know it was twins until I lost them. But there were several women in the church who came along beside me to just let me cry. Wow. and just remind me that it was okay to be angry, and it was okay to question God's plan in all of it. I wanted an answer. Why? So desperately, like to the core of my heart, I needed to know why. And I still don't have that. But it was a few specific women in the church who came along beside me and said, you know what, Alexa, sometimes you don't get that answer.
That's right.
And sometimes that struggle is the answer. And and you'll meet them again one day, right? Like they're waiting for you in heaven, and that's just such a beautiful thing to have. But without those kind words, and without the shoulders to cry on, and without, you know, those kinds of things, because my husband is a wonderful man, but it's not the same. They have no idea, right? Like they didn't get to experience them at all. And so he did his very best, but to have a few other women come along beside me and say either this has happened to me too, I can cry with you, or it never did, but I can still tell you that it's going to be okay, and it's not always going to feel this way. It really helped me. And I had a 2.5-year-old at the time that I needed to be present for. So these women helped keep me going. So I am
awesome.
Very, very grateful for them.
Well, what you've just expressed right there tells again the importance of the body of Christ.
That's for sure.
And yes, it's wonderful to go to family members and our spouses, but when we have the opportunity to make a relationship with someone that has been, you know, around a little bit longer or even younger, when they've shared experiences the same, it is such a blessing.
It's powerful.
Well, I can just say you are such a blessing to me already. And we've just met.
Thank you.
And so I hope in the weeks to come that we have an opportunity to talk again.
Me too.
And that many more women especially, because I think we're very relational, that we get to know people of all ages, not to stick with just our age group, but those that are younger.
I agree.
And so it's very nice to visit with you today.
Thank you, Sue.